Welcome to today's webinar, Storytelling Through Street Photography. And quickly about me, I'm Axel. I'm a photo and videography community manager at Pixabay. I'm really thrilled to have you today all with us for this exciting session with Louis. A little bit about me. So 10 years ago, I started with photography originally just because I needed a job while I was living in Los Angeles. And back then I worked as a personal assistant to well-known commercial and product photographer in Los Angeles and California. But over the years, I completely fell in love with travel and street photography myself. And yeah, I'm keep going it since 10 years and developing myself every day, keep it going it on. And today I'll be your host, and I'm super excited to introduce our co-host and today's presenter, Louis Jones. He's an incredibly talented photographer with a truly unique eye for moments and people, but he will tell you much more about himself. But before we jump into today's topic, I'd love to pass it over to Louis so you can introduce yourself properly.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for getting me involved in it. I mean, Axel, like you said, he's a photographer himself, and he takes really nice pictures. I mean, I've seen your Instagram profile. You take some really nice pictures as well.
Thank you.
So thank you for having me. Yeah, I mean, I mean, I'll talk a bit more about myself in a second, but just as a brief thing, I'm a 28-year-old street photographer, travel photographer, from the UK, and I'm really looking forward to sharing some insights and some knowledge that I have about the kind of stuff I do. So looking forward to it.
Thank you, Louis. Since I saw that some of you mentioned you didn't know Pixabay, so there's a quick intro to this amazing platform. Pixabay is all about connection, exposure, and inspiration for creatives. It's a big and growing community of artists sharing their incredible work with a global audience in different categories. But what's even better, it's about giving and receiving feedback, upskilling through educational blogs, workshops, and webinars like this one today, and also participating in contests and community events. So it's really exciting on the platform. And as an artist, you can also create your profile to receive donations and even indicate that you're available to hire. So let's start. As you can see here, the agenda. So the first, let's take a quick look at our all over agenda, and we are kicking off with a really exciting topic: the art of capturing stories in the streets. It's all over to you, Louis.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'll quickly just reintroduce myself a little bit. So first off, where did you all come from? Like, do you know who I am? Did you come from Instagram? Did you find out about this via Pixabay? I'm just curious to know if you already know me. Okay, a lot of people there. Pixabay, Instagram. Nice. Okay, so I mean, what I would do is I will just, yeah, give myself a brief introduction for those that don't know me. So, yeah, my name is Lewis Jones. I'm a 28-year-old street photographer and travel photographer from the UK. I've recently, the past 3 years, I was living in Berlin, which is super nice. Gave me a good chance to really practice my kind of street photography. But I actually started doing photography. So I'm 28 now, but I actually started when I was about 14 years old. I actually got a an iPhone 4, I think it was. And I remember very vividly actually that I used to do a lot of hiking when I was younger, and I went to this hill one time, and it's quite a popular hill. So I come from an area called Chester, and it's a hill nearby called Helsby Hill, and it's got like a famous kind of Christian cross that we had there during Easter. I remember I had my little iPhone with me, and I took a picture of it because the clouds were super moody. In all fairness. Oh, we got someone from the wheel. Nice, cool. The clouds were super moody. I took a picture of it and I posted. I actually posted it. I posted it on social media, and I remember I got something like 3 likes, and it was felt like it was such like an eye-opening moment for me because it gave me kind of instant feedback to kind of the photography that I did. And from then onwards, I kind of just fell in love with photography. And I started off a lot by doing landscape photography. I did a lot of landscape photography. Um, because like I said, I used to go on a lot of hikes, and because where I'm based in the UK, it's very close to some amazing nature, like Snowdonia National Park, like all kind of beaches and stuff like that, and the ocean. So it was nice to really, and that's how I kind of really fell in love with photography, being able to do that because landscape photography to me, I mean, it's something I miss a lot actually because it's very kind of tranquil and very therapeutic, let's say. And it was something that really kind of got me excited and being able to just go out there with my camera and just go and take pictures was a really special thing. And then I moved on, like many photographers, you start to realize that you want to do it as a job, but you can't really, you kind of struggle to make money with it. So I started to move on to commercial, started to do events, estates, corporate portraits, and I started that kind of like the route I started to take. And I started doing that for my professional job. That was my job, and kind of still in some way did my job, doing kind of you know commercial kind of photography. And then something happened called COVID-19. And the pandemic happened. I think, like most of you, we were all in lockdown. And I was just remember in lockdown, I was just kind of like, I just felt the urge to want to travel a lot. And when the world started opening up again, which is around about 2021, that's when I decided to go traveling. And I went traveling and I took my camera with me. And I actually went to Lisbon in Portugal. I remember taking my camera with me and I was just walking around the streets and I was just taking pictures and capturing kind of like the essence of the city, the buildings, the people, the streets itself. I just thought this is really fun. Street photography is like a perfect companion to for traveling. So that kind of where I found out that I really love street photography because it kind of perfectly aligned with kind of traveling. It felt like a perfect companion. Um, anyway, so that's a bit about me. Now we can move on to the slide to the art of capturing stories in the streets. And one thing I always say about street photography is that patience is the number one skill that you need as a street photographer. Maybe we can just go on to the next slide, please. Yeah, patience is the number one skill you need as a street photographer because there's so many times when you're going to be walking around the streets and you'll see like a really nice composition and you think, that's such a good composition, but there's something missing. Maybe it's a bit of light. Maybe you know you like somebody to walk into the frame. Maybe it's waiting for subjects to kind of do something. Like for example, this picture on the right hand side, it was in Barcelona. I took this picture. It was in an area called, I believe it's called El Carmel Bunkers. It's like a really nice, it's on a hill and it overlooks Barcelona, which is super, it was like a super nice view. Loads of people were there, all just chilling out, having a drink, listening to music. And I spotted this couple and a few people were taking pictures of them. And I was like, right, I can see a good picture there. So I went over there and looked at it and thought, it's nice, but there's just something missing. There's two people sitting there, but I want something to kind of help tell a story um, for the picture. And they were just sitting there together, kind of looking at the view, and I was like, it's a nice picture. The sun's really nice, but I just need some kind of story. So I waited there, and I think I must have waited for about 20 minutes or so. And what I was waiting for was something like that, like the picture you see on the right, where they're kind of hugging. I just wanted something to give a bit of story, a bit of depth to the image, let's say. And that's what I mean when I say patience is really key. Like you've got to be willing to kind of trust that you found a composition and waiting for the right moment to take that picture. Um, and then moving on to the next part, spontaneity, being spontaneous. I think one of the things, oh, maybe we can just
Sorry. No.
quickly go, yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, maybe being spontaneous, that is. in my opinion, I mean, that's why I love street photography so much. You kind of walk out, you don't really know what you're going to be taking a picture of. I mean, I could go out into a city and think to myself, right, I want to be taking pictures of churches or I want to be taking pictures of any other building, and then in the end come back with loads of pictures of couples. And that's what I love about street photography is that it's very, very spontaneous. You don't know exactly what you're gonna be taking pictures of, and you've got to kind of embrace that because the streets are unpredictable. And like it says, let the streets surprise you. And be present and be ready to react for anything that happens. And yeah, maybe we can move on to the next slide. But there are some things you can plan. I mean, even though it's a very spontaneous thing, there's definitely a lot of planning that you can do to help shape the stories that you capture. First off, location, location. I mean, I always say it's the most important thing you can plan when it comes to doing street photography because it really kind of alters the kind of mood, feel, and story of the pictures that you want to take. So, if you, for example, if you want something gritty, maybe you'd like to go to Friedrichshain in Berlin. If you want something a bit more romantic and elegant, maybe you can go to Le Marais in Paris. If you want something a bit more kind of fairy tale, maybe you can go to the area of Prague Castle in Prague. And I think it's really important because depending on which area you go to, everything's different about them. So let's say Friedrichshain, for example, in Berlin, which I say quite a gritty place. I mean, the buildings are a bit more rougher around the edges. There's a lot of graffiti around there, but also the people. The people are dressed very differently, a bit more hipster, for lack of a better word, let's say. And and that's really important to think because it all shows up in your photography. I mean, that's kind of a question I get asked quite a lot. Is like, uh, it's kind of a question I get asked quite a lot, like, where's the best spot to take pictures? And I always kind of refuse to do that because I always like to give people the best areas. Because if I tell you the best spot, you're just going to go there and you're going to take the exact same picture that everyone else has got. But if you go to an area, then you start to create your own pictures and create your own view of how you see the area. Um, The next one, shooting during golden hour. I mean, that's something I personally do a lot. I mean, it depends on the kind of feel and mood you want your pictures to have. I mean, light itself is a very, very important thing. I mean, the sooner you realize how important lighting is, the the sooner you become a better photographer. It's such a really important thing. And for me, I personally love shooting in golden hour, and I literally plan my day around that. So, if I'm shooting in golden hour, I would go on the internet, have a look at the weather, make sure that the it's not going to be completely cloudy, make sure it's pretty clear. Some clouds are okay, and then I will check what time the sunset is. So let's say sunset is at 6 p.m. I typically shoot about 2 hours before that, so at 4 p.m. So I plan my time to make sure I'm there at 4 p.m. and be ready to take pictures. So that's something that's really important. So maybe we can go on to the next slide. So how I capture people in street photography. So if you were to go into Google now, and if you were to search street photography, a lot of the pictures on there are going to be of people because that is the traditional meaning of street photography, taking pictures of people within the streets. But the kind of street photography I do is more of a literal street photography. So I'm literally in the street, taking pictures of the street, taking pictures of people, taking pictures of, you know, a lamppost, taking pictures of building, cars, bike, everything within the street or everything within a city. Um, but taking pictures of people is something that is very paramount to my photography and should be paramount for your photography because at the end of the day, it's the people that are in some ways vehicles for storytelling. Like they bring a picture to life. They're something that the viewer can look at and relate to. Um, so I was, but the problem is for the past 3 years, I was living in Berlin, and most of the traveling I do is within Europe. and most of the countries in Europe are in the European Union. And if you're familiar with the European Union and the I guess data protection laws, is that you're not allowed to take pictures of people in the street without their consent if you can identify them. So I was thinking, right, okay, so I can't take pictures of people's faces without breaching EU laws. So I think to myself, okay, what can I do? And I'm a big believer that if you put restrictions on an artist or on a photographer, that they tend to get their most creative results. So for an example, filmmaking, for example. So if you were to give a film director a small budget, I personally think they would make a better film than if they were to have a massive budget. I mean, one example, Parasite. Parasite made an amazing film, got an Oscar, but it didn't have the biggest budget. Some films out there they got like 200 million pounds or dollars, let's say. So I was thinking, right, okay. So with every restriction is a creative output, in my opinion. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so I can't take pictures of people's faces. So what could I do? And I remember like quite a while ago, I think it was maybe when I was a teenager or something. I remember watching a film called The Blair Witch Projects. And if you've ever seen the Blair Witch Projects, the it's a horror film, and you never actually see the monster. And to me, that made it a lot more scarier than if you did see the monster because it kind of plays with your imagination and forces you to imagine what the monster might look like. Someone said they have nightmares from it. So if you're watching the film, it kind of forces you to use your own imagination, and in some ways that makes it a bit scarier. I'm thinking, what if I kind of like adapted that to my street photography? So like rather than taking pictures of people's faces, which I can't do, why not kind of shoot from behind people and take pictures where I don't reveal their faces and let the audience imagine what their faces might be, what their facial expressions might be, and in some way get the audience involved into my work. And that's kind of what I do. So if you go onto my profile and you see my pictures, a lot of the pictures are from behind, and we're kind of letting the body language do all the work. Like this picture on the right, for example, from Istanbul, you can see that they're hugging. You can see that there's an element of love in there. Um, but yeah, that those laws apply to me. If you're in Britain and the United States, you don't really have to worry about them. I don't think. I think that's pretty okay. Uh, yeah, so that's one way I shoot people. Another way is for scale. I mean, I'll talk a little bit about it later on, but I love taking pictures, big, I guess kind of wide pictures, and using people as a scale for reference so the audience can see it and go, ah, okay, so the person is this big compared to this building or whatnot. Another one is using people as foreground interest. I think that is a really good one. It just adds a bit more depth and interest to the picture. I mean, I can show you. I mean, this one on the right is a good example of foreground interest. I mean, the focus is on the building in the back, but we've got the people on the right adding a bit more foreground interest and adding a bit more depth to the image. So yeah, that's some ways that I like to capture people in street photography, and some ways you could do so yourself. So maybe we can move on to the next one. Light composition and mood. This picture on the left is one example of how I use people for scale in my photography. If you see there, there's just one person there, and I feel like it just adds a bit of something to the picture because you can look at that and go, right, okay, so that person is a lot smaller compared to that tower, and you can just connect with it a bit more, I guess. Um, so light and mood. How did light change the mood and the storytelling? So there's lots of different lights that you can shoot in. Golden hour, my personal favorite. It's just something about it that makes it very nostalgic, dreamy, and ethereal. Um, I personally love using a light to backlight, using to backlight, which is essentially means you're pretty much shooting into the sun because the sun kind of golden hour. It's not too harsh, let's say. Um, and yeah, it creates really warm images, creates really soft and kind of emotional images. Midday, I personally hate it. I really don't like midday. It's extremely dramatic, very high contrast. It's great for black and white photography because black and white photography relies a lot on high contrast compositions, and it can also be good for portrait photography if it's a cloudy day because it's essentially just a big diffused light in the sky, which looks good on the skin. Um, Next, we have Blue Hour, which is very moody and cinematic and atmospheric, let's say. I I've just started experimenting with this one when I was in Venice and recently when I was in Budapest. So I just started experimenting with it, and I think it's a really nice time to shoot because the lights are turning on, the streets tend to be a little bit quiet, and it just creates like a really nice ambience in the photography. So it's quite nice. But what I mean, what I would encourage you to do is try out different lights. You know, if you're trying to figure out what your favorite light time of the day to shoot, try them all out. And in particular, maybe go to a spot that is nearby to you and maybe capture it in different lights. So capture it during golden hour, capture it during midday, capture it during blue hour, and you can really see the difference that the light has on your picture. So definitely try out, and maybe that can be a way to find your own style as well. Maybe.
Also, I think one important point to say because golden hour and blue hour are really short time slots, so you need really to know when to start and
Sure. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So because it happened also to me that I wanted to shoot in a golden hour and it was like only like 30, 40 minutes and then it was over and I was not prepared
Yeah.
for this
Yeah.
short time.
Yeah. It's kind of annoying, isn't it? Because like the midday, the time that I hate
Yeah,
is all day, but then golden hour and blue hour is 30 minutes.
yeah,
Pretty annoying.
that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Composition. So for me, because I've been doing photography for over 14 years now, composition is something that kind of like it's ingrained in my brain. So it's not something I really have to think about. And it's really important because at the end of the day, composition is what makes a picture feel cinematic. And there's some ways that I'm going to talk about. So one is leading lines. That's an example here. The picture in the middle, that's a good example of a leading line. So you see that the picture slowly but smoothly goes to the Berlin TV tower. It just naturally makes your eye follow that path and it just makes it feel more cinematic. The second one, symmetry and framing. I'm kind of obsessed with symmetry, to be honest with you. It's quite something I love to do. I love stuff to be symmetrical. I love stuff to be central. And I think the picture on the right is like a good example of that. It just, when you look at it, it just feels right. And that's what I love about, that's why I love doing symmetry so much. The one on the left, foreground interest. Something I love doing. Big picture of the shirt there, picture of somebody on the left. Foreground interest is when you have something in front of the frame of essentially the background. So, for example, the foreground interest is that person sitting on the wall. It just adds a bit more depth to the image, which is I think it makes it look super nice. And yeah, the last one is kind of rule of thirds. I mean, I've been studying rule of thirds for a very long time, so it is literally ingrained to my brain. And yeah, I mean, so what I would do, I would encourage you to try out all of these. Maybe go out and give yourself a bit of a challenge. Go out with your camera and say, right, I'm just going to take pictures of leading lines today. Or go out and say, I'm just going to take pictures of symmetry or foreground interest or rule of thirds and just kind of focus on each of them. And then eventually it will get ingrained to your brain. Your eyes will essentially be like leading line, symmetry, and rule of third. You will literally have a grid in your eyes because you've learned it so much. So definitely encourage you to try out all of them. Maybe we can go on to the next slide. So inspiration. This is kind of a big one for me, actually. So I've never actually formally studied photography. It's always been something that I've self-learned. I mean, I'm curious to know if anyone else, by the way, does anyone else study photography, like education-wise, or did they learn it themselves? Did they learn it through YouTube? Did they learn from doing self-learning? Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure. A lot of people, lots of diverse. Yeah, I mean, I'm I'm self-taught, so all the photography I did is yeah, I just kind of learned by myself, learned from watching YouTube videos, going out, taking pictures uh, by myself, and yeah. So yeah, so interestingly though, even though I am self-learned, I don't actually study other photographers too much, which is not something I recommend. But what I do is I take a lot of inspiration from other art forms. And back in 2023, I was in Chicago, and in Chicago they have a very good and very impressive art gallery museum called the Chicago Art Institute. And I remember walking in there and just looking at all the art that they had, and they had a lot of art from the Romantic era. And I just remember walking around there and being so, like so impressed by how the artists painted and how they portrayed life in some way. Like I was just like when I looked at their art, it just felt extremely nostalgic. It felt extremely ethereal, and it felt really idealistic. Like it was a perfect idealistic view of how they perceived life. And I just remember looking at it thinking, right, I think I want to steal some techniques from them. And I mean, one of the things that I noticed particularly about about art. So one of my favorite artists is a guy called Thomas Cole, and these two pictures are from Thomas Cole. And one thing I really noticed about his work is that in the shadows, there's a lot of orange in the shadows. And I thought, right, I'm going to steal that idea. And I noticed that he did a lot of backlighting with the sun. So the bottom right picture, for example, you can just see the sun is kind of backlit a little bit. So it's hiding slightly behind a tree. I thought, right, I'm going to steal that idea. And another one is obviously scale. This is another example. You see there's horses, there's people there in a big grandiose painting or landscape. You can just see a few small people. And I thought, right, I'm going to steal that idea. And that's what I encourage you to do. I encourage you to check out other art forms and just seeing if it inspired you and inspired your photography in some way. Now, that could be painting, that could be music, that could be um, films. Films is a great one. And yeah, I mean, this is romantic era painting is something that's always kind of inspired me since that visit to the Chicago Film Institute. Yeah, so maybe we can go on to the next slide or.
And I need to also to add, it's really impressive how much it inspires you. So I already told you this, but I love it
Sure.
how
Thank
much
you.
inspiration is running into photography from
I
this.
appreciate that. Thank you. So sharing your content, I mean, this is something that I'm sure a lot of photographers are interested, on artists in general are interested in because, every artist wants their work to be seen. It's just a normal part of being an artist. And I thought I'd give you a bit of an idea how I managed to grow my audience. So back in 2023, I had about 1,000 followers. And I've been posting a lot. I've been posting a lot of pictures, posting a lot of carousels, and nothing was happening. I wasn't really growing or anything. I was thinking, this is really shitty. This. I mean, I'm putting a lot of work into it. I'm posting a lot, but I'm not really seeing much growth. And I was thinking, I wonder if I can, because I've been told and I've seen it myself that Instagram Reels is the way to go, and it still is the way to go. And I was thinking to myself, I wonder what I can do with Instagram Reels in a very simple way, because at the end of the day, most photographers just want to be photographers. They don't want to be a video editor. They just want to post their pictures and that's it. And I felt the same way. And I remember scrolling through TikTok one time and seeing a a TikTok that came through, and it was from an artist, a painter, and it had some text saying day 30 of showing my art every day until I'm famous or something. And it's a video of him holding a painting, facing him, and then turning it around and showing the painting. And I thought, oh, okay, that's interesting. I'm getting a lot of engagement, a lot of comments, a lot of likes. And I'm thinking, I wonder if I could like adapt that idea for my photography. So I did. So I took it. So I got my ex-girlfriend at the time to take a video of me. So just standing there holding my camera, smiling at the camera, and then pointing it up. And I had text above me saying, "Showing my art every day. Day one of showing my art every day until I reach 5,000 followers, 6,000 followers, 7,000 followers." And I did that for about 75 days, I think it was. And my account went from 1,000 followers to I think 10,000 followers. And one of the reasons why that series was good, that kind of series and format is good, is because it was so easy to do. All I had to do was change the picture and post it. And it was such a straightforward thing to do. 1 second. Very simple thing to do. And I think that's really important because having something simple that you can make and something simple that you can post means on social media is extremely important. So what I'd encourage you to do is to try and find a format or try and find a workflow that makes it easy for you to post regularly because it really is it's just super important. It's one of the most important things, and I really kind of felt that when I was posting every single day. And then after I finished that series, I kind of had the momentum and in some ways the inspiration to keep going and to keep creating new content. Um, yeah, so I encourage you to try and find a format, a series that you can do yourself. So the next part, storytelling caption, it's not really needed for growth, but it is very important for community building, and community is extremely important. I mean, I used to work at before when I was living in Berlin, I worked at a company called We Are Era. It's a media production company and a talent agency. Big up to them. But one of the things they preached a lot is community, community, community. And they always talked about how important community is. And it's so true. I mean, I think there is a saying which is 1,000 true fans is better than 10,000 fans or followers, let's say. And it's just so true. And brands can see that. They're able to look at your followers and see how much they engage with your work. And they're probably more likely to go with someone who's got less followers but a more engaged audience than they are with somebody who's got lots of followers. So really encourage you to focus on community, engage with every comment, reply to every DM, and comment and interact with other creators, other photographers, and let them know what you think of their work because that's what makes you connected with them. So talking about the next part, which is what kind of content works best. So I've been doing kind of this growth Instagram thing for about a year and a half now, I would say. And the thing that I've noticed works best for me is reels where you're showing the process of what you do of photography. Don't give everything away from the start. So for example, so like a painter, for an example, what they would do for an Instagram reel is they would show close-ups of a painting, and the audience watching it is kind of like, oh, this is interesting. I can see a close-up of them painting the eye or the hair, and then they keep watching the video until they see the grand reveal. And I encourage you to try and do something like that with photography. Show the process and do like encourage them to continue watching so they see the grand reveal of your picture. The next part is reels where you're showing your face, where you're showing yourself. This is really important because the audience want to connect with you, not just your work. They're really interested in you as a person rather than just only your work. Um, and also sharing tips, photography tips. I feel like Instagram, especially now, is a very education-based platform, and sharing tips and knowledge on Instagram about photography is people are very interested in that and curious about it. carousels. Carousels went away for a while, but they're officially back now. I feel like they're becoming really popular again. I mean, there's one photographer that I follow. His name is Hudson, I think. He did a carousel post kind of recently where he showed before and after pictures, so before and after edits of pictures. I think his carousel post gained over 400,000 likes, which is insane for a carousel post. So I really do think they've come back. Um, but overall, when it comes to kind of sharing your content, sharing your pictures, your stories, the most important thing is to be honest and to be relatable because people connect with that. They want to connect with you, and if you're truly your authentic self, then they will love you for that. Um, yeah, so that's a bit about kind of sharing your story. Maybe we can move on to the next one. Balance and monetization. Something to think of when you are posting on social media is not to let perfectionism stop you. And it really is important because I think perfectionism can completely paralyze us. But when you are kind of, let's say, in your growth period, and to kind of keep posting, it's better to post consistently than to have one perfect post because the algorithm loves people consistently. And right now, whilst you're in your growth period, you can't be messing around with editing the picture, keep making small adjustments to the picture. You can't be messing around with that because it's just going to take up time. It's going to make you stressed out. It's going to make you probably not enjoy the process anymore. And I feel like I've had my most fun when it comes to posting on Instagram when I really wasn't a perfectionist about it. And I just posted what I think look what I think was okay and good. And to your surprise, there'll be lots of people commenting saying, "Oh, I think this is amazing," and stuff like that. So seriously, post consistently better than posting one perfect shot. And like I said, in here you can always repost the picture again later with a better edit. So progress over perfection. Uh, yeah, and like I said in the previous slide, community super important. Build your community first before you look at monetization. And when it comes to street photography, I've got to be honest and say that monetization in street photography is a hard thing to do when you don't really have like a bit of an audience. But when you do get an audience, you can get brand partnership deals, which can be super fun and really well paid as well. I mean, I worked with a smartphone brand kind of recently, and it was a really nice campaign. I was really impressed with how the brand approached it because what they did is they gave me one of their phones and they said, right, we want you to take pictures with it and we want you to do it around a theme. And we're going to give you the word for a theme. And the word they gave me was bloom. I thought that is such an impressive way to do like brand partnerships and collaborations because I think artists and photographers, they really thrive of being given a challenge. And it was just quite an impressive way to do it. Just brand partnership. You can also sell your own products, prints, presets, courses, books. People that are passionate about your work would be interested in looking at those, and also workshops and talks, kind of like this one, I guess. People you can share your knowledge, and people are interested in that. Yeah, super. Maybe we can go on to the next slide, which is everyone's favorite topic, which is gear. What gear I use? I mean, this is the question I get asked all the time, and in some ways, I am one of these people that says gear doesn't matter, but I do somewhat believe that. For me, the most important thing is practicality. Is it lightweight? Is it compact? Is it easy to carry? Does it let me get the shots I want without having to change the lens a lot? And that's why I decided to go with this one, which is a Sony A7C um, with a Tamron 28 to 200 millimeter A7C Mark II, should I say? Why did I go with that? It's lightweight, it's full frame, easy to carry. With the Tamron, same again. For a lens that has such a long range, It's really quite light for what it is, but it's also such such a um, diverse lens in a sense of like I can hold the camera up again. There we go. It's such a I can get all kinds of shots with this without having to change the lens a lot, which is super nice. But there you go. And I love it because what it allowed me to do, it allowed me to shoot at 28 millimeter, it allowed me to shoot at 200 milliliter like that. And one of my guess kind of my signature things about in my photography is that I really like background compression, which is essentially where the background looked a lot bigger compared to the foreground. So I just love this setup for those reasons. My editing style, so like I said, I'm very much inspired by Romantic era paintings. I love warm colors. I love pushing the temperature to orange and like warm tone, giving that kind of nostalgic feel. I like to put orange in my shadows. So that's it. Um, Masking is another one. I mean, masking, I actually say is one of the most important. It is the most important thing you can learn when it comes to editing because it really, I think it's really sets you apart from a lot of photographers if you can really master masking because it's just a great way to enhance your picture, whether it be enhancing the leading line, whether it to be to enhance the golden hour sun that's coming through, whatever it is. So I really encourage you to try out masking, learn about it, and master it in some ways. And yeah, I mean, like I said here, my two um, my two favorite sliders for making pictures dreamy is dehaze and clarity. I always push them to the left because it creates such a dreamy look, I guess. So yeah, and yeah, lastly, I think I've said that already. Editing is all about enhancing what's already there, not really faking a moment. So stuff like that. And I think that is everything, right?
Yes, thank you,
Yes,
Lewis.
so
So we
thank you.
reached now the Q&A. So, but yeah, thanks a lot. It was really amazing since I know your photography, your work. So I'm really engaged in all of this, and you are also inspiring for me and also for so much other photographers who are following you. But yeah, everyone has his
Thank you.
own style. Yeah, and I really love it, especially yeah, the part of inspiration. So I think every time like what is inspiring me most, and it's also like especially for me all about film. So directors
Oh, yeah,
and film. But yes,
nice, cool.
let's step into the Q&A. So
A lot of interesting questions there.
yeah,
Um,
no, let's start with the first question. Is it like mandatory to spend a lot of money to be professional, or you can be experto with regular cameras or lenses?
yeah, I mean, this is I think I said a little bit earlier, it's like for me, gear, it really doesn't matter. I mean, I back in 2016, I bought a Sony A6300 and I paired it up with a Sony 18 to 105 f4 lens. I think at the time it costed like maybe £1,100. If you were to get it now, you could probably get it for maybe £500, €600, $600, which, and to me, that setup was perfect. Like I got that back in 2016. If it didn't break, I would still be using that setup now because it was such an amazing camera, such an amazing lens. And so to answer the question, no, you don't need a lot of money. And when it comes to buying your first camera, one thing one particular camera I always tend to recommend to people as a beginner photographer is the Fuji X-T20. I think it's just a really good camera to start with. It looks good. It's got got that film body, silver body, so that looks nice. But it also comes with something called Fujifilm simulations. Is that right? Which is essentially in some way kind of like filters for your pictures and there's loads of blogs out there where you can find other people's recipes, they call them, which is their settings on their simulations, and it's a great camera to start off with.
All right, I think there's also a really interesting question from Chris. Do you have any tips for preventing your nerves from hindering your street photography? By this, I mean feeling awkward or as if you are like invading people's privacy when shooting.
Mm, that's a good question. Yeah, that's a very good question. So what actually helped me a lot is when I'm out taking pictures and doing street photography, in a city I've never been to before. What I really like to do is I actually like to put headphones in and listen to music because it kind of just naturally kind of calms you and puts you in your own world when you're doing photography and listening to music. And I think that kind of for me, it massively calms my nerves because I'm in my own little world. It's me, my music, and my camera, and I just walk around taking pictures of people. And that's kind of like the best tip I would probably give when it comes to that kind of thing.
There's also, I think, other interesting question. How have different cities and countries influenced your photography? Since you're traveling a lot, I think
Ah,
there's a big influence also for photography.
ah, that's an interesting question. How have they influenced my photography? Um, I don't know actually because I mean, of course, every city is different, but I still manage to take pictures in every city. I think one of the common themes throughout my photography, you can probably see here, is that I rely a lot on golden hour, and I rely a lot on that light. And with every city that I go to, I always find golden hour in those cities. But what I love about traveling is that it is very diverse. Like, for example, this picture on the bottom right in Barcelona. I couldn't get that picture in um, Paris, for example. Um, the picture here in the middle from Venice, I couldn't get that picture in another city. I think it's all each city is very different in kind of like their architecture and the people that's within them, but I still managed to take pictures there. I don't think I really answered that question very well, but yeah, it was a good question.
It's a good question because for me it's like it inspired totally my photography when I was traveling through
Yeah, okay,
Peru and Bolivia. Yeah, but it's about the people since the people in South America are like really different compared like to European people and they're more open-minded. And a lot of people saw me with the camera and asked me if I can take a picture of them. So
okay,
they were like,
yeah.
"Nice camera, can you take a picture of me?" So and opened my work like to be also more open-minded and start like conversations with foreigners. So
Yeah, sure. I mean, I can somewhat vouch and agree with that because I mean, for me, I've only mostly taken pictures within Europe, but the only time when I somewhat didn't go to Europe was in Istanbul. And Istanbul, I've noticed myself when I was in Istanbul, I spent a lot of time taking pictures of people and taking pictures of faces of people. One, because I could, there were no laws, and two, the people there were very kind of open to it. Whilst if I were to do that in Germany, I would get shouted at, no problem.
yeah. There's also, I think, also interesting question about like handling situations in the phone from Gwyneth. So, do you have to ask people before to take their photo, even if you can't identify them, when if they get upset that they're being captured in the picture?
Um, if I'm taking a picture of somebody without showing their face, I won't ask them. If I'm really adamant about getting a picture of them with their face in it, then I would approach them. I would kind of like go up to them. I mean, most of the because I'm traveling a lot, kind of the open I always say, "Hey, do you speak English by any chance?" And then I go, "Oh yeah, I do." And then I say, "Cool." I mean, I noticed because typically when I take pictures, normally of couples.
Yep.
So I noticed that you're both sitting there. I thought it looked like a really nice picture. You mind if I just quickly take some pictures and then I can just send you them? And 9 times out of 10, they will say yes. They will be okay with it. Um, Now, if I take pictures of people where, so one example is a lot, like I said, a lot of the way I use people in my pictures is for scale. So if I just use them as a reference to scale the image, sometimes I'll take pictures of that with somebody kind of looking small in it. Sometimes I will get people come up to me and saying, "Oh, hey, why are you taking a picture? Like, what are you doing with it? Where are you planning on posting it?" And I will just tell them, and most of the time I just delete it. But that happened quite a lot in Germany, actually, I have to say. A lot of people don't like me taking their picture in Germany. I don't know, could you vouch for that? Is that something you struggle with?
Sorry, again?
Is that something you struggle with in Germany? You get people like approaching you, asking why they, yeah, okay.
Sometimes yes, especially in Berlin. So what?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I got confronted so a few times when I was taking pictures. So
Sure.
yeah, but
Yeah,
it's better to ask and like to get in a conversation and ask the people like this is the easiest and like safest way.
sure. Yeah. But it's like it's a difficult one because if you do ask people, then it can make the picture feel very unnatural.
Exactly. It can destroy the picture and it's also the moment. So, but it depends. So
Yeah,
it's about learning and exploring. I think all over this street photography is really kind of hard, like to find the right moment, the right situation.
sure. Yeah.
There's also from Katie a question: do you use a scheduling platform? So I think she means for like planning your content and like preparing.
Oh, okay. No. Yeah. No, no, I don't. I mean, I'm really kind of when, especially when I'm traveling. Actually, I'm quite unprepared in terms of the research I do. I typically tend to kind of find a local person on Instagram and say, where's the best areas to take pictures? Where's like the area where people are looking cool or whatever. But yeah, I don't really use a scheduler. Um, but I noticed some people said, how do you find out about sunset time? I mean, you can just simply Google it. Whatever city you're in, just Google sunset time in Berlin or sunset time in Liverpool, and it will tell you. And then typically, golden hour is about 1 hour before that. So the whole 1 hour before that. I shoot around about 2 hours before that because in editing you can kind of still make it look like golden hour.
Yeah.
Um,
I
yeah.
think there are also really good apps for this one. Someone shared it
Sure.
in the comments. So
Oh, cool.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah, there are really good apps. I have one where you can really spot like on the minute the stand of the sun. You can really see it where it will be
Nice. Yeah, yeah,
with
yeah.
a
Cool.
geolocation and the hour or the minute of the sun where it will be. So
Oh,
it's
that's
really
amazing.
really helpful. Yeah, a lot of people in film use this for so
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool.
it's
Nice.
really good. Also, a really good question. So, about the topic of editing, what was your approach to learn how to edit your photos through classes or trial and error or something else?
Mm, yeah, I mean, a lot of trial and error. I mean, to one thing I actually encourage photographers to do if they're trying to figure out their editing style is to download or buy a preset from somebody. Like if you really like the work of somebody, buy their preset or download their preset and use that as a foundation almost. And then eventually over time you'll notice yourself starting to I mean there's something you can do with presets is you can reverse engineer them. So you can put this preset on and then you can go through all the settings and just bring them back to zero and see how it affects the image. And I think that's a great way to learn about how each slider works in editing. And it's also a really good way to have it like a foundation. So you could download a preset from somebody, use that as a foundation, and over time you'll naturally change and edit things yourself. Maybe you want more clarity, maybe you want more contrast. And so I think a good way to learn is to go with presets. But also you don't have to do presets. You can just go through photography and just try every single slider. Literally take one picture and try seeing what contrast does, try seeing what the temperature does, try seeing what tint does, try seeing what all kind of the settings do. Just kind of go through them one by one and just just look at what it does, kind of thing.
Totally. So, and sometimes when I look at my pictures from like 8 and 7 years ago, I definitely have nowadays a totally different edit. And I
Sure.
don't like my old pictures. So, but some people still like them. But I changed totally my style. So,
Cool. Yeah. That's
it's
good.
yeah, it's a process.
Yeah.
Um, what I think it's not possible. Someone was asking for the raw photos, but I think no, less photographers show the raw photos, so because they sometimes editing is something really artistic. If you're also totally into it, like sometimes good like the raw photos can see like totally different compared like to the edited one.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can actually, if you go on to my Instagram page and on my broadcast channel, I actually posted a while ago a before and after edit I took in Istanbul. So that kind of one
Okay,
example.
cool.
But yeah, I mean, you're right. I think the edit, the edit, I think is the most important thing in photography because I feel like it's the thing that really defines your style and define the way you see the world. And for me, in my pictures, I really want to create a very idealistic view of Europe and almost like a perfect view of Europe. And doing that through, golden hour and through warm colors is a way of me doing that kind of
Totally.
thing.
So another, I think, quick question is: can 35 millimeter be used for street photography?
So yeah, I mean, I've used film in the past, uh, and I think I only used it for a very short amount of time. But absolutely, why not? I mean, film is like you take a picture and it comes out in a certain type of color. I think it's a great way. I mean, I personally wouldn't do it, but it can be a bit of a cheaper way compared to digital, because film cameras are typically cheap. Film stock, I mean, getting a bit expensive these days, but it's definitely cheaper than digital. Film cameras is actually sort of how I started. I mean, I started with a phone and then I moved on to a film camera. Um, I actually think starting off photography with a film camera is a really good way to be a bit more intentional with your composition because you've only got a certain amount of pictures that you can take, and you've got to be really making sure that you've nailed the composition and everything before you take it because that picture in some way costs money. You know what I mean? But
Totally. Yeah, it's expensive. Nowadays it's really expensive.
is it? Yeah, sure.
Yeah. But if you're interested also about like analog and digital photography, I've shared last week a blog post on Pixabay exactly about this topic for people who are interested in both or what to start first or what's important like about analog and digital photography because I started with digital and moved on to
Nice.
analog photography and now I really love like the analog photography, also in street photography. So because people engage different to analog cameras. They don't see like a bigger like a digital camera, so they see the old camera and are like, oh, you're
Mm,
using this old camera, and they're not like acting like sometimes afraid about photos. And they can't see. If
interesting.
they say they ask me like, can you show me the picture? And I say no, sorry. So
Yeah, sure.
also happened. So
Yeah,
there
yeah,
is no
sure.
picture to show. So yes. Is there any question you see interesting for you, Louis? So I'm still
Okay.
because a lot of questions are already answered through like your explanation of one question.
Yeah, I mean, one person said, "Can I start my journey with a good quality smartphone?" Yes, you can, 100%. I think smartphones these days have really good cameras. One thing I would personally recommend when doing using your smartphone to take pictures, personally, if you want if you want your phone to come across like in some way the real camera, I always encourage people to use the 5 times zoom or the 3 times zoom because I think the the more zoomed in you shoot, the more naturally cinematic the picture becomes. So encourage you to use the kind of the zoom lens if you're doing smartphone photography. But also try out the wide angle lens. That's a good one as well. But the answer is yes, you can use your smartphone.
I see also here a question from Harry. Do you ever set yourself any specific photo projects to document?
Yes, I mean that's something I've started doing recently. It's a good question, by the way, really good question. I think it's something I started doing quite recently because it gives you a purpose, most importantly. Like it gives you a purpose to go out and take pictures, give you purpose and it gives you kind of inspiration because you can go out and just take pictures. My kind of photo project right now is the kind of pictures I'm taking. Like I said, I'm taking pictures based on an idealistic version of Europe, and eventually that will change. My photography style will completely change at some point, which is good because I think every artist should adapt in some ways. So yeah, so I do it a little bit, but probably should do it more, and I think I will do it more in the future. Kind of have like projects for my photography. Yeah.
And one more here's, I think, a quick question to answer. Could you please write the model for the camera recommended? So I think your camera is meant. So the camera
Yes.
you're
Where can I
using,
put that
but
in the chat? Or
you can say it again so that the person.
yeah, so it's a Sony A7C Mark II with the Tamron 28 to 200 millimeter f2.8 to 5.6. I'll pop it in the chat there. It's an amazing camera. It is a bit it's a little bit pricey, probably not something to start off with. Um, but it's super. I mean it's really small, it's really compact. I'm able to walk around the full day with it. Just me, my camera and my camera strap. And that's it. That's why I like it so much.
Yes,
Uh
also
good.
interesting question about like the mindset. So I think it's really important also. What kind of mindset should a photographer have? What interpersonal skills should one develop?
Hmm, good question. Hmm.
I think I can say one thing about this. It doesn't matter
Mm-hmm.
if you're a shy person or like an open-minded person that you're like going over to people, talking to them, and or you're like more the person behind. It does matter. It's like street photography is like for everyone. So you can capture a moment, you can capture doing like portraits and combined with street photography after asking the people. And so there are also, I think, on Instagram, there are a lot of street photographers like doing like this portraits on the streets from people. So it depends on you how with what you feel like comfortable. So it's really open, like the photography and street photography especially.
Yeah, I mean I pretty much vouch for that. I don't think you've got to change your personality just because of street photography. You can kind of just be yourself, really.
Totally, yeah.
Um, but with the mindset, I mean, it's good to be hopeful. You got to be,
Yeah,
you got to be leaving the house every day thinking, right, today I'm going to capture the best picture I've ever taken. And even if you don't, you got to have that mindset because why bother otherwise? You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a good question though. I've got one question here from Laura about what do you think about lens filters? I actually really like lens filters. When I went to Lisbon the first time I properly did street photography, I took with me a diffusion filter, and that kind of naturally make your pictures look a bit more dreamy. So what it does, it kind of blooms the highlights and softens the blacks, so it makes it a bit more grey. And I think that's a really cool way to get dreamy pictures straight out of camera. So it's really nice. I mean, you can do it in editing by just decreasing the dehaze and the clarity, which is probably the better way because it's somewhat reversible. But using filters is a great way to do it if you're not really familiar with editing too much.
yes. Um, Sahil is also writing or like asking. He meant like 35 millimeter prime lens, so not the analog film. So
Ah, Axel. Okay. Yeah.
yeah, but yeah. I was also thinking about analog photography, but yeah,
Ah, okay. Damn. Yeah. Yeah. I mean.
Also
I
depends on what you're doing, so on the street.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, personally, I hate prime lenses because they're just a bit too restrictive for me. It can be good if like you're kind of lacking inspiration, like you can give yourself a prime lens, like a 35 millimeter lens, and go out and be like, right, I'm only using this lens. Let's see what I can get. Like I said, restrictions create a creative output. Um, but yeah, me personally, I just love zoom lenses. It's more versatile,
Yeah,
you know.
but there you go. So you see the difference. Also in between us both, I only shoot streets with 28 millimeters. Only.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting. Yeah,
I have this Leica Q. It's now already, I think, 9 years old. But I love this
yeah.
camera. I only shoot with this camera. For all the other, for like landscape, animals, portraits, I use an Canon 5D Mark III. Also really old camera, but one of the best cameras I've ever bought.
Uh,
But for streets, only 28 millimeters. I love this camera, but it's totally different. That's yeah. That's about like
what do you like about it? Do you feel like it makes you more creative, having that
yeah.
kind of
I'm
like
definitely more
one lens?
creative. I start like moving more around, so you
Sure.
need to
Yeah.
come closer to the person or the spot where you want to take the picture. And with the zoom lens,
Sure.
you can stay on your spot and then zooming in and being anonymous. So in my case, for example,
Mm,
I was shooting here in Berlin in the train stations, or also in the train, and it's tricky. So to get like kind of anonymous, but being
yeah.
close to the people. But I learned like really to ask people like to take pictures of them. But 28 millimeters is not good for portraits. So uh,
No? Okay. That's
not really.
interesting.
So
Yeah.
because I don't know the English word for it, for verzerren. Um, looks not naturally. So it's better like
Okay.
starting with
Sure. Yeah,
an
yeah, yeah.
40 millimeter up to 50, and the best one I think it's the 85 millimeters. But yeah, you don't want to carry like prime lens 85 millimeter. They're really heavy.
Yeah, okay. That's interesting because like when it comes to portrait, when I do portrait, I tend to shoot quite wide. So it's interesting like how subjective everything is. You know,
Yeah,
we've all got a different like vision of how we like photography. So that's interesting.
for example, also during the Euro Cup last year here in Germany, I started shooting with a flash on streets. So
Nice.
yeah, it was like also totally different kind of photography, and also special photographing people on the street with a flash. So
Uh,
yeah,
so do
yeah.
you have to, I'm guessing you had to go up to people and like ask them kind of
Yeah,
thing
Austin
because
definitely. Yeah, but most of
yeah.
the people were from around, like a lot of people from Spain, Portugal, UK,
Ah, okay.
and they were like, yeah, yeah, sure, send me the picture, take a picture of me. So they were like really
Nice.
open. But it was the
Cool.
mood, like during like World Cups, Euros, people are different, so in a different mood. They're open-minded.
Completely get that. Yeah.
Yes, I would say one last question.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a question here about whether I use a tripod. Um, Never. I mean, there's just no chance I could walk around all day with a big tripod on my back. Just,
No,
yeah,
they're
it's
too
just,
heavy.
and I don't really use because of that. I don't really use ND filters to get like long exposure shots. I don't really do that either because you need a tripod for it.
Yeah, sure. And I
But
think ND fields are more for nature, for like landscape and nature photography.
sure, yeah, sure,
All right.
nice.
Good. Thank you very much to all of you, and thank you, Lewis, for this really, really amazing and insightful session.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you for joining and taking some time out of your day to listen to me talk nonsense. And thank you to Axel for hosting it and for getting me involved. And obviously, a big thank you to Pixabay for making this whole thing possible. Really appreciate it. And I've really enjoyed doing it and sharing some insights about my work and my photography. So I hope you managed to learn some bits from it.
Yes. Thanks a lot, so Lewis, and have a good day. You all over. So we will share this session as a recording. So I saw also this question. So all right, then. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye,
Thank
Lewis.
you.
Bye bye.